They say hunting and fishing can be dated back more than 2 million years. Throughout the years, the historic angler and hunter has steadily evolved into the avid hunter and angler that we know and love today. Welcome to the Outdoor Defiance podcast. As you listen, you will hear comical stories, companies talking about their products, researchers talking about their research, and overall ways to help you become a better outdoorsman. Welcome to today's episode.
Welcome back for another great episode. This will be episode 23. And if you guys don't know this guy, you need to check him out. But this week we have Spencer with River Certified. Last week we talked about catching fish with your hands. This week we're going to be talking about catching fish with the poles. Like I said, Spencer knows how to catch the fish, especially some flatheads. I've been watching this guy throughout the years grow, and it's been crazy to see. But just go watch his videos and you'll see why he's grown so fast. The guy knows what he's doing. You guys will be listening to this on a Wednesday, and the following Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Gunnar and I will be at the World Deer Expo in Birmingham, Alabama. And we have a booth down there, and we're excited to meet everyone that we can. And hopefully we meet some people there to come on for future episodes. But let's cut into it. This is episode 23. Well, Spencer, thanks for coming on today. You know, I just told you this a little bit ago for Tom, but it's been a pleasure watching you over the last few years and kind of gaining, what you look at to fish. And I haven't tried your secret, which I don't think is a secret anymore, fish batter, but with the Frank's Red Hot sauce yet. But I've been telling Gunnar that we need to do it. And so I bought a bottle. Actually, before I got home, I went to Walmart and grabbed a bottle and with all my groceries. And I was like, I'm trying it this weekend. You know, I think it's time. I've been watching you. Like I said, I couldn't even tell you how long. And so it's been cool to take some things that I never would have thought of growing up and fish and watched you do it and then take it and do it myself and have success. So that's been fun. But definitely thank you for coming on today.
Well, I appreciate the invitation, and the Frank stuff, like, you make it sound like it's a bigger deal than it is. It's, I mean, it's good, and I love the convenience, like the egg wash and stuff. You
Yeah.
got to keep you don't have to refrigerate eggs, but you don't want them to boil in the sun. And if you do egg and milk wash, you definitely need to refrigerate the milk. But Frank's, you just throw it in a bag. So if you want to go like do shore lunch, you don't have to keep that stuff in the cooler. It's more convenient. And the fact that it's more convenient and it makes fish taste good, or even better than they already do. I mean, it's just an added bonus.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've always used mustard, or like an egg wash.
Mustard's good.
Mustard and a beer batter. I love that.
I'm a big fan of like strong flavors.
Yes.
Have you ever tried horseradish mustard?
I have with sandwiches, but I've never done it with fish. But that sounds really good.
Yeah, if you like do the mustard with your fish batter, do the horseradish mustard. If you like strong flavors,
yeah, I love strong flavors.
That's one of them that I need to do more often. It's just not quite as cost effective. Like Frank's is cheap and it doesn't take that much Frank's to coat them, whereas mustard, you got to use a lot more mustard, and I'm just a giant tightwad.
Yeah, I get that. I am too. So, but I kind of go over how you got started in the outdoors and, kind of how it turned it from your passion from when were you like, oh, I love to fish, kind of what was that light bulb?
I mean, it's probably a lot like most people. I had a dad and a grandpa that took me fishing, and they liked fishing, but they were more into hunting. But they took me fishing, and I just fell in love with it immediately. Like, as long as I have a memory of fishing, I have a memory of me like loving it and then being obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably more of an obsession than anything else. And it sounds unhealthy to say it like that, and maybe it is. It might be like unhealthy, but when you're 12 years old or 10 years old, and I was pretty blessed. Like, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm fairly book smart enough where I could get my stuff done in school quick. So I would get my stuff done in school quick, and then I'd have X amount of time where I could geek out reading fishing magazines, or looking up things. I mean, I did a lot of stuff online, like in elementary and junior high, and just Googling catfish and reading as much as I possibly could. And I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing. And it hasn't really wavered much. I mean, I've had different levels of time where I could get on the water more at different parts of my life, but man, I've just always kind of been, not even kind of been, I've always been obsessed with fishing.
Yeah, it's a different obsession, and it's funny, even talking about different species. I grew up bass fishing and the catfishing on the side of the ponds with my grandpa, and especially the old oil ponds around here. That I mean, you could get 3 foot off, and you have no idea how far that drop off is. All of a sudden, it's because it went straight down, and we pulled some big fish out of there. But I really started diving in on the catfish and crappie. Those two are like my favorite two things to ever chase. And as I got older, I started looking into the hybrids. And then here lately, I've really loved chasing the saw guys that we have down here. And I'm going in with this. I've seen you chase hybrids before at the dams, and do you kind of just focus on a certain species, or do you? I mean, I know catfish is your number one based off your videos, but do you focus on several species or just kind of catfish and hybrids?
I try to. So where I grew up and still live in Iowa, Iowa's kind of cool because it's got a little bit of everything, but it's not like amazing for any one thing.
Yeah,
But if you understand, like, this time of year, this water level, these fish are going to be biting the best, and then a lot of other fish aren't. Like right now, our flatheads are starting to spawn. So as much as I would really like to still be chasing flatheads, and I'll still fish for them, some, just not as hard at it as I was, say, 2 or 3 weeks ago. But this time of year, the hybrids start hitting top waters.
right.
And then in low water years, they kind of gravitate around rock riffles, but those rock riffles are under 10 foot of water right now because we've got a bunch of rain. So then they'll move to the dams. So this weekend, I'm going to go camp out on a river, stretch river below a dam, and I'll throw flathead baits out at night. But my main thing is I'm going to get up at the ass crack of dawn and go out and throw top waters below the spillway and try to get on a bunch of white bass and hybrids. So,
Yeah,
I mean, to me, the biggest thing is you have your favorites, but if you understand the like different water conditions, different time of year creates different, like, better fishing for species A, B, C, or D. You're just going to have more fun catching more fish for more of the year, and that's what I
yeah.
try to do.
So, how long did it take you to kind of learn and gain this knowledge of where these fish are going to go, and what did you use to gain that knowledge? Was it magazines or videos, or was it pure like experience?
Oh, I'm still learning a lot,
Yeah,
man. And when you think you got it figured out, you don't. But most of it's trial and error, like the real firm patterns that work where I'm at has mostly been trial and error with a lot of, like, a heavy dose of error, still
yeah,
plenty of error in there. But you get ideas of things from watching videos or reading articles. But I mean, when I was really starting to, like, try a bunch of different fishing, like once I was in college, had wheels, had a little bit of time, and just enough money to fill up a gas tank and get out and fish a bunch of places. Like, YouTube wasn't that big, like now if I will go down in your neck of the woods and I Google Keystone Reservoir catfishing, like, I can have a pretty good idea of where to start before I even get there. And then you add that plus Navionics. You take Navionics, you take a little bit of YouTube research and some fishing articles, all from a Google search, Keystone Lake catfishing, and you can go down there and catch some fish.
right.
Um, but unfortunately, that wasn't available then. But I mean, it doesn't bother me a bit because I really enjoy the adventure.
Yeah.
Like that video that you were talking about that I just posted up this week, that's at a place I'd never been before.
Wow.
Like I just went by it and said, you know what, this looks like it could have some nice fish. So I'm going to go fish it. And they had some nice fish.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
for every one of those, there's, however many bad trips where you try something and it doesn't work. Although I will say, if you pay attention and you start learning things, the number of bad trips kind of starts to decrease. you got to take your lumps. It's like anything else. But if you enjoy, like, every once in a while I'll get a message from somebody who'll say, I went fishing like 15 times, especially for flatheads because they're tough, to consistently catch them. But somebody will say, I went fishing 15 times, whatever arbitrary number, and I haven't caught a single flathead and I'm ready to quit. And my first thought is, so you're not fishing because you enjoy fishing, you're fishing because you want to catch a fish. Like, you got to go fishing 15 times. So who gives a shit if you caught one or not? Like, that's, you won. You won. And then you learn a little bit, and then suddenly you catch your first one, whether it takes 15 trips or 1,500 trips. Like, who cares? You're out there having a good time. Like,
Yeah.
if anything, the YouTube, as much as I enjoy the filming, the only downside of it is it really makes me have to focus on like catching a fish, because you can't have a YouTube video. Well, you could, but it wouldn't be much of a fishing YouTube video if you didn't catch any damn fish. So that kind of takes away that freedom of just enjoying being out there. Like, there's definitely that level. There's definitely is that, but it does add just not too much, but just a little bit of pressure on top. Just a little bit, just enough where you get reminded of it when you go a trip or two without catching a fish.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people look at social medias and they don't. A lot of people forget, people post their success on there. All those, and they don't realize what comes from the success. It's all the failures. And that's what people are like. Man, you guys, we do a lot of deer hunting, and people be like, man, you guys have a lot of deer. You must be in a good area. And I'm like, man, I promise you, there's sits that I still don't see a deer. And I was like, those are the sits that humble me and remind me, hey, it's not as easy as as you want to think it is. And that's what's fishing. A lot of times I go out and I'm like, man, I had a bad day, fishing, but I had a great time to hang out in the outdoors, and I take those moments and use those times to learn. And I think a lot of people, like I said, I think they go on social media, and especially looking at guides, that catch fish on the daily, but I'm like, those are professionals, and you can't.
They've taken their lumps. Like, they've went
absolutely.
through like everything that person who's bummed out about is going through. They already did it a long time ago.
Yes. It's just like if you're sit there to watch a professional football game, you're going to get upset if you haven't played football, because those people went through all the struggles to get where they are, and now they're professionals because they went through the day-to-day struggles to get there. And that's the way this stuff is on fishing or hunting. You see all these people's success, and you can't just lose track of it because those people already been there. So,
well, and what is success? That's kind of my biggest thing. Is like, is success catching the fish, or is success having fun on your way to catching the fish?
Yeah.
And like, if you're having fun on the way, then the time it takes to get there doesn't really matter that much. But
right.
I'm kind of wired different for a lot of ways. Like, I don't mind playing the long game, and I try, like, I make a point to focus on enjoying the journey and not just the destination, because you get to the end destination, you're only there for a moment, and then it's over.
Right.
Just have fun along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm going through that right now. I recently, last couple of years, got a pontoon boat. We've always had like a little bass boat that we could put around in, but I was young and I hadn't really learned how to work that boat. So I've been trying to learn I'll just name drop it, Sooner Lake. And I've been taking my lumps, but Taylor's kind of showed me a little bit, some of the areas there, and we've been really learning that area. But yeah, I've always had to, kind of slow down, and on those days that aren't as productive, it's always better being out there than it is being like, like stuck in an office or something. That's what I always think about it.
You got a pontoon boat. Like,
yeah,
you're floating around in luxury. You got a canopy on that thing.
Yeah, but
so you're not even in the freaking sun, man.
Well, it's not on it right now.
Made in the shade. You're kicked back, relaxed, and maybe you beat up the fish, maybe you don't. But you're like out on a boat in a lake.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Yeah, it's off it right now because it's kind of a pain.
Yeah,
having to deal with it. So I throw it off it. My girlfriend hates it because it's off it. And she's like, can we just put it up? I'm like, no, I do not, because it's stuck in the loft right now. I took it completely off. It's like, I'm
So you
tired
need
of
to
this
just
thing.
get you one that's not a pain.
I don't know.
I will never own a boat without a bimini. Well, I say that it might happen, but I'm much happier when I have a boat with a bimini, and I'll pay if I got the money to spend on one. Like I will save up $5,000 to get the $5,000 bimini and not buy a $200 one. Like I could just spend $200 and get the $200 bimini. No, I'm going to save my money and save my money until that day comes where I can get the $5,000 one, because that's not going to be a pain. It's going to be sweet, and there will be no excuses for me not to be using it because they go up and down so easy, you know.
Yeah.
5,000 is extreme. Like you get the full enclosure for $5,000, but I'll
Yeah.
save my money to get the full enclosure. Like my boat has a full enclosure. Like I said, never say never, because you never know what financial future looks like. But
Right.
it'd be hard for me not to want a bimini and enclosure from here on out.
Yeah, that's what I'm going through right now. I'm saving up for one, and I always see all these people on Facebook like, we just bought this one for $125, and then it's like a couple weeks later they're like ordering another one. And I'm like, I don't want to be that. I just want to. I'm more of like a buy once, cry once type of guy. Like I'd rather just buy the best when I'm here than have to sit there and keep buying every year. And
You took the word, you read my mind, man. Like those exact words were running through my head. And that's kind of how I operate. I will live without, the bargain, not even bargain bin, because bargains can be good too, but
absolutely,
I will live without what I really, really want until I can afford it and not spend any money on, the second best thing. And that's why I did kayak fishing, went from a kayak. Well, so it appears on YouTube, I went from kayak fishing to a big badass jet boat. Like
yeah,
I've had many boats in my life, and they were just kind of problems. Like they'd run sometimes, blah 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 blah. And I sold my last one and said, I'm going to fish out of this kayak until I can afford to get the boat that I want, not the compromise boat, the one that I want. And that's what I did. And then when I could afford it, I bought that.
Yeah, that's where I was at. I was saving up for a Sea Art for the longest time, and I was shooting back and forth of what to get, if I wanted a center console, if I wanted the full windshield, if I wanted the Easy Cat, or if I wanted the Pro Cat. And I was going back and forth. And my buddy that I've kind of fished with and kind of learned from him on a lot of stuff, he called me. He's like, "Hey, I know you want a boat," and he's like, "I know I don't have exactly what you want, but he had a 1960 center console Excel stalker, and I fished out of that thing up and down the rivers around here for years." And he's like, "I kind of went out of fishing," or he's like, "Well, I say that, but I'm going towards hog hunting, and if you buy the boat, I could still go fishing here and there." And sure enough, I ended up buying that, and I'm kind of glad I did, in a sense, because I've always had a little boat, a 14, 15, 16 footer, and they with a 25, 20 horse on the back, and this boat's taught me, hey, it's not as forgiving as those little boats are in some situations. And haven't been beating it up, but there's situations, if I would have had that expensive Sea Arc, and that's one of the times that the bargain did come in, and it did save me in situations. But yeah, it's been fun running this boat and learning, just the craft of being able to run the rivers, because even learning, the right turns, even in a year down here, they'll change. I took, I don't know if Gunner, you're with me or not, but for all my life growing up, you went under this bridge, turn right, and I went under the bridge and turned right, and I parked it on a sandbar. And just in the matter of this last 6 months, the rivers, the channels moved over to the left just a little bit. And it's just funny, if I was like, man, if I had a big boat and did that, I would have been stuck out there for a while. So,
dude, like that's one thing about your rivers. They're just all shifting sand.
yeah.
Like ours, we got plenty of sand, but we got enough gravel and clay where, things change, but usually it's pretty obvious when they do.
Uh-huh.
And you can read a river for what it's worth up here a lot easier than you can, say, the Arkansas,
Yep.
or the verdigris. That one's, in the channelized sections, it's no big deal, but
Right.
like the Arkansas can be nasty. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Kansas a little bit, if you're familiar with that, where it's just shifting sand, braided channels. There's like no defined channel to follow. So even our rivers, they're really shallow, but you can get around pretty good most of the time with a prop, even though they're small and shallow. Because if you can read water, not always the case where you're at.
Yeah, no, and that's what I actually run the Arkansas majority of the time. That's what I grew up on, and it's this, it's crazy. Just like I said, getting the boat, the learning curve, just that right there, and just
Is your rig a tunnel prop?
yeah.
Yeah, so you can get pretty skinny with it. That'd be a good rig for where you're at. And then the
Yeah.
1960s, the nice thing about those, like that little bit narrower boat gets on planes so much nicer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I can run. It's rated for 6 inches of water fully planed out, but I've never. I say that I might have tried it, not known it, but I've never purposely been like, yeah, we're in 6 inches of water right here.
Sure.
But
Well,
yeah,
6 inches is the minimum, and 6 inches can turn into 5 inches really quick. And
yes.
that's my hang up with a prop is like a jet, you beach your jet and you just pull the jet off of the sandbar and it's fine. Whereas you beach a prop, you can do some major damage to that lower
Yeah.
unit in a hurry.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of my friends that run the river, they all talk about how many lowers they've gone through, and I'm like, man, I don't want to be there. My prop's a little beat up, and that was from, like I said, the learning curve. But I'm before I fully buy a new one, I'm gonna just keep trying to learn a little bit more. And I mean, I'm getting a lot better than I was when I first got it. But yeah, it's been a learning.
If I was in your neck of the woods, I'd think real hard about getting a jet. They're slower, they're less efficient, but I just enjoy that peace of mind. Like you don't see it, you go by a log, then you don't see it, and you can even scrape the bottom of the boat with the log and run it over that jet foot and keep going. It's fine. It's fine.
So I've always heard why a lot of people don't have them down here is that sand will tear those jets up. Is that a myth?
That's a myth.
Yeah, see, that's why I've never looked at one.
So if the way they work, they have an impeller, not a propeller, and that it's kind of like a cone shape. So imagine that with your prop and it spins and sucks the water up.
Mhm.
Well, there's a ring that surrounds it that you need to have a certain, I think it's 1/16 of an inch needs to be the distance between the outside of your impeller and that sleeve. So if it sucks up sand, it'll wear that sleeve out, but that sleeve is replaceable. Like
Okay.
if you wear it out, you can get a new one. But even so, as you're wearing it out, there's these shims on top of it that space it out. So as it wears that ring out, you pull the impeller off, you take one shim off, put the impeller on, put the shim on the bottom, and it slides it up to tighten it up. And once you run out of shims, you buy a new impeller and start all over again. Or a new wear ring and start all over again.
Yeah, wow.
So
I didn't know it was that simple.
Yeah, because that's how it was up here. And then there's a handful of guys who started getting them. And that was my first question was, isn't that sand hard on them? It's like, no, you just run the sand runs through them. You still have to, it's still water cooled. You have to make sure it doesn't get plugged.
Right.
But if they're just loose sand running through there, wearing that ring out, it's fine. You just got to keep an eye on that. And you don't even have to keep an eye on it. Like your motor will tell you when them RPMs start running a little higher, it means you have more space between the impeller and that wear ring. So it's sucking up more, it's turning faster, and that means you need to reshim it.
Yeah, that's another thing, like some lakes down here have a lot of stumps and a lot of trees down there, and I get nervous to go in areas, even though I'm like, man, that'd be a really good spot, but it's gonna take a trek.
They don't like waves, so they're not a great lake boat. You can put them on a lake, but they don't like waves. They don't like vegetation because they got to suck the water in. So like they don't like moss. They don't like leaves. A trash bag's real hard on them.
From experience,
I actually ran over the fun one was I ran over a Big Gulp like styrofoam or plastic cup, and the RPM spiked for a second, and then I heard this weird, it made a nasty noise. So I turned it off right away, ran the trolling motor to the bank and swung it over and trimmed it up and started looking at it. And at one of them plastic big gulps, it got sucked in through the grate and it shredded it. And the little plastic pieces were bouncing off of the impeller and stuff. And it looked pretty comical once I got down. I mean, it scared me right off the bat, but once I looked at it, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Taylor hit a phantom log one time at Eufaula in our bass boat, actually. I don't even know how that happened. We were just driving. All of a sudden, it started, and we were like, what the heck? And we looked at the prop, and it was just destroyed. We were like, how
you
the
never
heck
felt
did that
anything?
happen? No.
I mean, and that's why we had 3 people on the boat, and I was like, what in the world? Did anyone? Everyone's like, no, we literally just driving. All of a sudden, it's like, so I don't know if maybe his hairline fractured before from something, and just enough force from the water made it break. I have no idea, but it was the weirdest thing. And I mean, luckily we're close to the boat ramp. We got back, but it was weird.
It is weird. Yeah. You never know out there. That's why it's good to be prepared for all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the places we fish. The rivers are coming through them, and a lot of times when I'm going out there is after rain and after the water starts coming down in that early springtime, and the blues are kind of pushing up to that 2 foot of water, and trying to get the worms and all that stuff. And man, that's some of the funnest fishing around here. When
you hook them and then they start thrashing the top of the water, like you see the water blow up before the rod even goes down. That's pretty awesome.
Yes, that's what I like, when they almost shamu, and then they say, and then you're like, that looks like where my line is. And all of a sudden your pole's like, yep. So yeah, we've had some awesome days doing that. It's especially like one day in particular, we were out there right before the storm came in, and we were catching them. Brought our rain gear. That storm hit, and man, that was insane fishing. We had 6 poles, but there's 2 of us, and we had to take it down to 4 because we were 2 poles putting 1 back in. It was one of the best days I've ever had.
Yep, you gotta appreciate them too, because they don't come around all the time.
Yeah, this time of year when you go out there and catching 2 or 3, it's like, man, it's just crazy to think about just the slight changes.
It's like, where do they all go? Like there was one fall, one case study that really sticks out in my mind. I had 2 weeks of really slow fishing. The water was low, nothing was changing. Like, it was consistent weather, and kind of like you're saying, chipping away, catch a few here, catch a few there. And then suddenly we had this big storm roll through that dumped 4 inches of rain in about an hour, and the river came up 4 feet while we were on it. And you couldn't, like, it didn't matter where we fished. Like, everywhere we put a bait, we were catching 1 here, double, triple, like short order. I don't know how many, and then we're talking channel cats here, just putting them one after another in the boat. And it's like, where have these fish been the last 2 weeks? Are they here? I mean, they got to be here and just not eating. But it's just crazy how they can go from 0 to 60 in an instant when some weather change like that happens.
And it can take, it can be within an hour. It can be the day, the day after you went out. It's just crazy to sit there and just not know. And that's exactly what you said. They're down there. You can sit there and scan and see them, and they're down there. But it's like, why is my shad not good enough today? And what changed yesterday?
I'm wondering, are they, like, in moments where they're not eating them, like, are these catfish? Are these like carp or buffalo or what? And no, they're probably catfish that just don't give a crap about your bait.
Yeah, it's funny. So
pisses me off is what it does.
Oh, it'll get you plumb pissed off and worked up. It's just fun. It's just, you got to go through the roller coaster, of emotions of
that's days. Back to the part of the journey. That's all part of the journey, like, you just got to enjoy it, I guess.
That's like this lake in particular up here by me. You can go during that winter bite, and it's nonstop. You can wear yourself out in a couple hours. Go up there this time of year, and it's just real slow, and it's just funny to sit up there and you're like, well, I understand what happened there. During winter they're hitting those deeper holes and schooling up a little bit more than they are now, and they're breeding right now and in holes. So yeah, it's a little tougher, but you're still like, where are you? Like, I can change anything I do and still can't find you.
There's always a way to get them. That's what I got to remind myself too. You know, like especially fishing a few tournaments this last year.
Uh-huh.
You know, days where I struggle, and I'm like, oh, I wonder how everybody else did. Well, they caught them. I didn't.
Yeah.
But those are the times where you learn the most. Like, really, that's one cool thing about tournaments is, okay, you go out, you struggle, other people catch them, and then you start kind of getting an idea of what they're doing to catch them. And not that I'm saying you should follow people around or anything, but you can tuck that information away and just remember, like, time of year, water level, weather conditions led to this point, and if they're based on that stuff, they're going to be doing this. So if
Yeah.
those things line up again, I need to be doing this. Not necessarily chasing somebody's spot, but learning a new pattern.
Right.
And then lots of times you can apply them to other bodies of water. Like
Oh, absolutely.
Lake of the Ozarks is real similar in a lot of ways to the Tennessee River. The upper Mississippi, even though it doesn't have blue cats, the fish up there seem to operate a lot like the Tennessee River. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Milford operates a lot like Keystone. So, I mean, if you figure out a pattern on Milford, if I go down to Keystone, odds are it's going to play out there and I'll be able to catch catfish that way, or vice versa. You're on Oolaga and you figure out a pattern that works on Oolaga, and I bet you it's going to work on Milford or Keystone
Yeah.
because they're all similar bodies of water. You got like a deep main section, and then it slowly gets shallower as you go up the reservoir. Then you have this giant mud flat on the upper end.
Yep.
Yeah, like there's so many reservoirs in the Midwest just like that. You figure out patterns that work on one, odds are you can do it on the other one and at least catch some fish. It might not be the best thing in town, which that's the interesting thing about tournaments. It's like you have a pattern that you can extrapolate and apply to different bodies of water, but you still got to know what the best pattern is to win the tournament.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of other little things add up too. But moral of the story is you can, you just pay attention, you learn stuff, and it's amazing how you can transfer it to different bodies of water.
Yeah, and we have one of our friends is a pro angler, and he can go out and just smash the fish, and just catch the biggest fish you've ever seen. And then it's like you'll do it the day before the tournament, well, I shouldn't say a day before tournament, but say a week before tournament. And in the day before, he's kind of going around scanning, make sure they're still in the area. Go out there, and it's like, nope, nothing. It's just crazy.
The good guys know when to pivot.
Yes.
Because a week before the conditions were different than they are tournament day. Is that a German short hair?
Yes, sir.
I love me a German short hair.
My dad, golly, went southern there. My dad raised him growing up, and I bought one. And she got sick when she was little and never really finished her out to hunt. She can still hunt, but like the retrieving part, that's a catch and take. Sometimes she does it. Sometimes she stands over there and looks at them like, hey, they're right here. Come get them, But she's been kind of babied. She's been spoiled. And then I have a lab. She's back there. So.
Gotcha.
But what? When you're going through college, when did you start videoing and decide like, hey, I want to start putting this on YouTube?
Oh, that was much later. Well, not that much later, but my wife, girlfriend at the time, or maybe fiance, I can't remember if we were engaged or not at then, but she got me a camera for my birthday, and I got the camera. So I'm like, well, I'll videotape something, and all I do is fish. So I videotape fishing, and then I had the footage. So I thought, well, I should probably edit it, I guess. I don't know how to edit, but I'll figure it out. And it was just fun, kind of made the whole thing fun. Just another little wrinkle to the fishing, and posted a video on YouTube, and it got a little bit of traction, which I thought was kind of neat. Like people watched it and said some good things about it and said they want to see another one. And I don't know, a few months later, or maybe longer, I don't know, edited another one and kind of started doing it more and having more fun with it and making more and more. And then I found out you could make money on YouTube. Yeah. Like, wait, I've been messing around with this and didn't even know you could make know you could make money or anything on it, and started looking into that more. And then and I found out like much later, I might have had like, no, it wasn't that. I probably had 700 or 800 subscribers when I found out you could make money. And that's when there was the 1,000 subscriber threshold.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I need to make some more videos so I can get 1,000 subscribers. And then I did it. And I remember because I think you gotta make $100 before they send you anything. And I think I got paid $110. And I'm like, holy crap. That's gonna pay for all my gas for fishing.
For one day.
That is badass, so, and I don't know, I just kept doing it because turned it in kind of part-time gig, I guess, just doing the stuff that I was doing anyway. And now I'm doing it pretty much full time.
Yeah. When, like, how long have you been doing it?
Oh, shoot. It's been a minute now. I think this is my 4th year full time. Probably 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, because I could narrow it back to at least 6 years of started watching you, and that's when I was trying to think. I was like, man, I wonder if he started then or a couple years before.
It's been a long time, man.
So since you've started kind of trying to film for, like you said, because you figured out you could make money, what have you figured out has been the greatest challenge since you started doing that? Like, what have you ran into where you're like, this? Yeah, I'll let you answer that.
Catching fish consistently because everybody wants to see flatheads.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I mean, and it's cool, because flatheads are my favorite, but that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. It's they're a fish that's not easy. And before YouTube, if I went 3 trips in a row without catching one, I didn't give a shit. It's like I'm still having fun out there, and every time I don't catch one, I learn what doesn't work, which I can therefore apply into the future and try not to do that again. Whereas now, granted, not the best flathead fisherman in the world, but I'm a lot better than I was, and it's still difficult at times. And then like the last 3 or 4 years, we had that big drought that it's finally over with. And we're pretty close to having Central Iowa's pretty normal on water levels, not taking into account all the rain up north. Like Minnesota's getting pounded, South Dakota's getting pounded, Wisconsin got a ton of rain, and all that water's running down to bodies of water down here. But all our local stuff, pretty normal water levels, which has been wonderful. And the fishing's been pretty good, and it's crazy how the water drops and they just seem to disappear. And then you get a little rain and then it's like, where'd they come from?
Yeah, here we are.
Talking about before, but yeah, the biggest thing is consistently catching. Like I have to have 2, not just, so I put out 2 videos a week. So twice a week, I got to catch fish, and not just catch fish, but tell a good story. Like, well, that one video that I posted this week, I had 2 good trips, caught 2 good fish, on their own. They told an okay story, but put them together and they told a better story because you had more action, more whatever. And that's just one instance, but there's times where you go out, you'll catch a great fish. Maybe it'd be like 40, 50 pound fish, but you don't have anything to go with it. So it doesn't make a good video. That means I got to go out. I'm going to go out and fish again and try to work that nice fish into a video somehow to tell a good story.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's by far been the biggest challenge, is getting the content, or I hate that word, I guess. I don't really hate that word that much. Getting footage that tells a good, compelling story that I think people would want to watch. But that challenge, I mean, I kind of freaking love it.
Yeah, that's what we're learning. We've always been hard on ourselves about getting the footage and getting the right footage and all that. And, and it's funny, in the last 4 years, 5 years we've done it. It's like, Gunner, I tell Gunner, like, it doesn't matter about the quality. It just needs to tell a story. You got to be constantly posting. You got to keep telling the stories, because, there's several times that we've had bad luck and not get the kill shot because the camera died or something like that. And it's like, we're like, oh, we can't use that. But I'm like, well, we can. It's not going to get as much use as the kill shot does, but it also tells a story better, because
Mm-hmm.
it shows the struggles, the real life struggles that we all have to go through and face. But yeah, it's the whole editing and filming is, man, that's an animal in itself. That's
Oh,
why,
it's a skill set for sure.
we just started we've talked about doing this podcast ever since we started. And when one day I was like, hey, I bought a mic, you should buy a mic. And I was like, okay, I bought one. It'll be in, tomorrow. And here we are, we started. And that's another thing, is like podcasting can be easy. It is easy. It's easy to talk. It's easy to, do all this, but it's hard to find, the people that want to come on. A lot of people get nervous. I'm like, all we're doing is talking, we're
Oh
just having
yeah.
a conversation.
I got some buddies when I was doing a podcast. I wanted them to come on because they're funnier than hell, and I like to be good. But yeah, you get a microphone or a camera in front of their face, they just clam up. But they don't like it, Like not everybody likes it, and I feel like there's more people. I mean, there's definitely more people doing these things now than ever, just because of the convenience of putting it together. But it takes a special individual to not even a special, just it takes a different kind of person to find enjoyment in doing these things.
Mhm.
But like I said, at the end of the day, if you're having fun, that's all that matters. Oh, and then kind of back to that storytelling thing, the epiphany moment for me, because when I first started making YouTube videos, they were just like little 4, 5, 6 minute videos that just show me catching a fish, and I got a little bit of traffic on those, and that was neat. But I went fishing with a buddy, and we would kayak down this creek, and we had to portage over 2 different big log jams.
I remember.
And most of the time I would edit stuff like that out. I would just make it about the fish catch. But I said, you know what? I'm going to include all the banter, all the trash talking with me and my buddy Denny, and I'm going to include the portage and and then the fish at the end. Kind of just worked out that we caught them at the end. And that video blew up. And I'm like, wait, there's something to this.
Yeah.
I think that video's it's got to be over 300,000 views now, which still blows my mind,
Yeah.
But it tells it's not the best videography. It's not the best audio, and definitely not the best host, but it tells a good story. Like guy went out, floated, had to pull his kayak over 2 giant log jams and then caught a big fish. Like that's kind of a neat story.
Yeah. It shows the struggles, not just the catch. That's what I think a lot of people like to see is the real life stuff, not like, oh, he went out and caught a giant. Why am I not going out catching a giant, And
I think the trick is to have a little bit of all of it. Like
yes.
If I just posted a video of me dragging a kayak over logs, I think there'd be entertainment to that. But when you add the big fish factor into it too, then that makes it 10 times better.
Yeah. I've had the worst luck. You can ask Taylor. I've been a terrible teammate, co-founder. Every time. It's like every time. I'm like, I killed a deer, and I'll be like, my camera died right when I shot. Or it's like, I shot the deer, and I was like, my camera just wigged out on me, and I had to put it in the shop. About 2 or 3 times that's happened. I've killed like for instance, this last year, I shot a pretty nice deer with my bow. I'm pumped. This is the deer I was hunting. This is the deer we were like, if we get him on camera, he's going to look awesome. This is going to be great. And I get down, I text everybody. I'm like, I killed him. He's right over there, whatever. I walk over there. I look at my camera to do my interview afterwards, holding the deer, talking about it. And it's like, my camera's like, like, I'm like, what is going on? And then they just erased the entire thing.
Yeah.
What I did.
There's two ways to look at that. One, everything happens for a reason. So there is bad luck. Don't get me wrong, but bad luck can be avoided as you pay attention to what you're doing beforehand, whether it's replacing batteries or how you take care of your equipment. And then 2, the second one is just because something bad happens, you can get really creative with things and figure out ways to put a spin on it and work it into a story or include it in something else and all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, you killed a great deer, and there's a story that goes along with that. You could have sit down by the fire and share stories of killing big deer and then use that as your B-roll to go over the top, where it's not just not like what we're doing here, where this is an audio medium. So for the most part, so it doesn't really matter. But if somebody's watching this, this would be pretty boring visually.
Yeah.
But if you had B-roll to put over the top, whether they're pictures or video clips are better. But you could have your sit down by the fire and talk about your stories and have all these different video clips of hunting or deer down and all those other things to really spice it up and make it more visually appealing. So, I mean, you're only limited by your creativity, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what, that's why everyone wants to copy and paste on every video, of what happens and all that. And I always look, I always like to try to find that little thing that a lot of people, or, that I get to video that a lot of people didn't catch, It's funny because I talked about this yesterday, but like one time one of my videos, I caught a caterpillar, inching up the tree, and that was my intro. One time I had the orange sunrise coming up and had two crows laying in the tree and they were screaming at me, and just stuff like that. I'm like, man, that stuff makes the whole filming worth it, just because I get to relive it, and that's another thing. That's why I like the videos, because you get to tell the story, but then you get to showcase the story and show them, visualize what happened. And that just makes everything so much better.
Oh yeah. And again, like you're only limited by your imagination and how you use that. Cause there's a million people who can get all those shots, especially with everybody having phones that have great cameras on them. But the different, like what you do with that footage, that's where you can have a lot of fun with it,
So, what would your favorite videos be that you shoot? Would it be like the kayaking and camping? What kind is your favorite deal to do if you had one?
Anything adventure, like my favorite, it's not even as much filming, but favorite things to do is whether it's a kayak or a boat or bank fishing, just going somewhere new that I think will be good.
Mm-hmm.
And then like sometimes it's good, sometimes it isn't. When it's good though, man, I just feel like a good fisherman when I can say this time of year, those water levels, this spot that I've never ever put a line into, that should be a good place to go fishing, and then go fishing there and beat the brakes off of them. Man, I love that. Filming or not, that's my absolute favorite. Just going new places and having success fishing.
Yeah, that's what one thing I learned from you is looking at the small streams. You pass some of the best streams there are just going down the highway, and I never thought about that until I started watching you and a couple other guys. I'm like, man, you know how many times I'm probably missing a chance at a big fish, thinking I have to go to a lake or catch, or even the chance of catching a fish. And one day, this was about 2 years ago, there's a little creek I've always wanted to fish, and I drive by it, and there's a guy walking up it with his kayak, and I mean, probably a 40 or 50 pound blue that he caught out of it. And I'm like, that thing's 8 foot wide. Like, I've thought for years I want to go down there and fish and to see what I can catch. I wasn't expecting that. And later on, I actually talked to the guy, ran into him in town probably a week later, and I knew him. And I said, hey, I was like, I don't want to, I'm not telling everyone I saw what I saw, but I was like, I'm going to ask you, is that something you do? And he's like, yeah, I do that often. He said, I've been doing it for 5 or 6 years. He said, it's my favorite spot to go to. So it's just crazy to think about some of the smallest water having some of the best fish.
Oh yeah. They're not all created equal. There are some that are better than others. And the more you poke around on them, you kind of start to see the attributes that make one better, like A better than B or C better than D. But there's definitely some hidden gems that don't get touched. But I mean, on the other side, access is tough. That's where the kayak comes in handy, and then I go knock on a bunch of doors to, to get permission to fish or camp the places that I camp. But like the kayaking thing, you can put a kayak in, float from bridge to bridge. You're not trespassing. You're not breaking any laws. You're having a great time. You're catching fish that don't get pressured. And if you pass by a really, really good spot, you can look at the plat map. You can look at Onyx or whatever, figure out who owns it, then go ask them if you can fish or camp. And, I'll get turned down for turkey hunting quite a bit, but for the most part, people don't really care about the camping. And especially if, I make it so you don't even know I was there for two reasons. One, because I want to keep that landowner happy. And two, I don't want anyone to know I was the fish in there, because then they might try to go.
So what are your some of your like strategies for this time of year to catch those flatheads that you've been catching?
Well, they're starting to spawn right now. So unfortunately, and like I said, you can still get them when they're spawning because they don't all spawn at the same time. But the fishing isn't as good as it would be pre-spawn. But you need water, like for those small waterways. If things dry up, then I think a lot of them fish just leave them and go to the bigger stretch of water. So I just kind of go with the water. If the water's up, I'll fish the creeks, and if the water's down, I go to the main body of water. And that was the interesting thing about our drought. Was like the first year of low water, wonderful fishing on those bigger streams and bigger rivers, and even they got progressively terrible as they got worse and worse as the drought continued. So like 1 year low water, okay, still got good fishing. 2 years of low water, okay, but not as good. And then that third and fourth year were just terrible. But now we have water, and now there's fish. So I don't know. I was concerned a bunch of them died just from the stress of not having any place to live because it's drying up. But maybe not. Maybe they persevere, and then the water is what gets them moving and more targetable. So I don't know. Like, kind of back to the learning, I still got so much learning to do. And the more you think you figure out, like there's a tipping point where you feel pretty good about your knowledge. And then suddenly you learn a few things and you're like, holy crap, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. I don't know anything.
Yeah. Let's take a break from this podcast and talk about some awesome products.
Hey folks, let me tell you about GritKnives. They're not just your average knife company. They're all about high quality, affordable, and unique products that'll make your outdoor adventures legendary. From limited edition pocket knives to rugged fixed blades and precision scalpels, they've got it all. Plus, their logo wear will have you repping the brand wherever you go. So whether you're out in the field or tackling everyday tasks, trust GritKnives to be your go-to for top-notch gear that won't break the bank.
Are you looking for some of the best sounding turkey calls on the market? Then look no farther than JAG Calls. Since 2022, Team OD has been using their calls and have had great success doing so. Two of my personal favorite calls are the Mother Clucker and the America. And I mean, if it has a name like that, it must be good. Check out JAG Calls, that's JAG Calls, out at jagcalls.com. Hey, and while you're at checkout, use OD 2024 for a discount. Once again, OD 2024 for your discount.
Now let's get back to today's episode.
So this time of year, like when it gets hotter, you don't have to talk specific like this time of year, but are you doing more, are you targeting more structure for the flatheads? Or, what are you kind of looking for when you go somewhere?
So the specifics, like the tactical side of things, like for the flatheads and small rivers, I suppose pre-spawn, I look for big complex log jams. Like if you watch my videos, you'll notice, giant brush pile, big fish from giant brush pile, blah, 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 blah. And those places can be good post-spawn too. Don't get me wrong, but like before they go on the nest, those are the places to be. I don't know why. So the why I don't know, but the what I do know, and that's all you really need to know to catch them. But once they're done spawning and you get down, like I won't fish those creeks as much after, because I think they run up them to spawn. And then once they're done and the water drops, they head back down to the main. And those big brush piles on the main bodies of water, they can be good all year long, but the individual trees in the river start to be better and better and better, where they weren't as good pre-spawn. I think it's they don't like, flatheads don't like each other. So I think that plays a part. So you have an individual tree with an individual adult fish on it, and that individual adult rules the roost. Maybe there's a few on it, like there's one in the root wad, there's one on the trunk, but maybe there's just one individual fish. Whereas pre-spawn, they're more tolerant of each other, maybe. I don't know. So they all pile into these big brush piles hanging out together. Like I said, I don't know. But what I do know is those big brush piles are better pre-spawn. And then post-spawn, those single trees start to get better and better and better.
And I've seen a lot of your videos, you know, you use different live baits. What kind of makes your decision of what you're going to use that day?
What I can catch.
What do you catch?
I mean, I have my favorites, but like bluegills aren't my favorite, but they're the easiest for me to get, and they catch fish. What I'll do often is I'll go catch a bunch of bluegills, and then like I got to travel to catch my bullheads and my green sunfish. So I'll go catch a bunch of bluegills, have the bait tank full of bluegills, and then one day I'll go catch as many bullheads as I possibly can. And then I won't take them all. Like I'll go on a trip. I'll take some bluegills. I'll take some sunfish. I'll take some bullheads. That way I'm not burning up my whole bullhead stock.
Yeah.
So if I hit a marginal spot, I'll throw a bluegill at it and maybe a sunfish. But if I see like the primo spot, I ain't throwing any bluegills in there. I'm only throwing green sunfish and bullheads into something like that. The bluegills are kind of just the filler baits, but they're good too. You know, they catch fish. They're just not what I have the most confidence in.
So do you have to get your bullheads, do you have like a reservoir? Do you have like a pond you set up, or how do you kind of work that? Because down here they're hard to find. I mean, they're here and there in like big detention dams, but other than that, we really don't have any.
I try new places all the time. Like if I go to catch bait, which I haven't done it that much this year, but last summer I tried a new place for bait and didn't give it a ton of time because you don't want your bait spots to be tough fishing. You know, you want to be good where you can catch bait in a hurry. So like if spot, I keep throwing out A, B, C, but I'm going to keep doing it. If spot A where I catch bait, I know I can catch bait, I'm going to travel there or drive there. But on the way, there's this place I've never fished that I'm going to give it 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, whatever. It bounce around real quick. If I get bait, cool. If I don't, cool. I'm still going to where I'm going, but I tried it. And then I check that box and I know that, okay, this is a new option, or don't even worry about this place, so on and so forth. I'm fortunate where I'm at. There's a lot of public ponds. When you're talking private ponds, it's a lot more difficult because you got to, instead of spending 20 minutes to try that spot, you knock on a door. Hopefully they're there. If they're there, you end up talking. Like if they give you permission, you're going to talk for 20 minutes to an hour, depending on like who you're talking with. At least I do, because I like to talk. So
yeah, me too.
Which I enjoy that. It just takes up more of your time and makes it a little less efficient. But I don't know, it's all give and take. So more of the story is I try as many new places as I have time for.
So are the mudcats down there, are they pretty easy to find or up
No,
there?
it's really like you don't have enough money in your bank account for me to tell you where I catch my bullheads.
Oh, I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying, like, are they easier to find up there? Because like down here, like I can tell you one spot that has them, and other than that, I don't know.
But that's my point, is like they're not hard to find. So there's no amount of money that somebody would have for me to give it up. Like if somebody knows, great. If somebody sees me, whatever, those things are out of my control, but you ain't going to hear me tell you where I catch bullheads at.
Right.
Because they're not easy to find. Like within a reasonable distance from my house, like under an hour drive, I can think of 3 places.
Wow.
And that's with me knocking on doors, trying new places all the time. And I'm talking there's a lot more places that have some bullheads. But I'm talking like 3 places where I know I can go and load up in a hurry.
So when you're going on a trip, are you going like a couple of days before to load up, or are you going like the day of, or kind of what's your plan there?
Oh, I got a 100-gallon cattle trough in my garage, and it gave me some fits when I moved a couple summers ago, but fingers crossed, like it's been treating me pretty good. So I've been able to, about once a week, I'll go somewhere and make sure I got 40 to 80 baits in that tank. And that gets me at least. And so it's not even every week. It's probably every other week where I go and load up on bait this time of year.
So kind of go over, discuss, what your setup would be for a flathead versus like a chasing blue cats and then even channel cats.
Well, the channel cats is the big one because they don't get as big. So if you use blue and cat or flathead tackle, they're just not as fun. So I'll just start with them. And basically, if I'm just channel cat fishing, I got these Daiwa trolling rods that are noodles, and they're I think they're made for like walleye or light tackle salmon. I don't know. Like you could about bend them. You could definitely bend the tip to touch the handle on them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But they're 7 foot medium light fiberglass rods. So much fun, dude. And I love fiberglass for cats because it's so slow and forgiving. I think your hookup rates are better. And then on top of that, when you do hook up, that forgiveness of that bend helps keep that hook in the corner and keep it from tearing out, even at heavier drags, because like you see a lot of catfishing rods where it's all backbone and just a little give on the end. Well, the give on the end helps you hook the fish, but like especially if you're using braid, like it's not as big of a deal with mono. With mono, you actually probably want a fishing rod like that, but with braid, with no stretch in your fishing line, like there's got to be some forgiveness somewhere. So I like fiberglass rods for that reason. But with the channel cats, you got a medium light fiberglass trolling rod, and I'll use a PC Fun Alloy M bait caster. That's what I've been using lately and love them. They're 8-4-1 gear ratio, so you can cast. They cast a long ways, and then you can reel it in a hurry when you want to move spot to spot, whatever. And use 30-pound braid for my main line, and then 20, sometimes 30-pound braid for my leader. I like a lighter mono leader, so when my hook gets snagged, I can bust it, and I save my swivel and my sinker. And 20-pound leader, like the leader is the weakest point, so I make sure that like my main line is significantly stronger than the weakest point. And that's treated me pretty good, and it makes the channel cats a whole lot of fun. And if you do hook a flathead, which happens occasionally, you got a shot, as long as you're not in super duper heavy structure. Like I had a client hook a 40-pounder on one of those last July. He had a battle on his hands, but we were fishing rock. So like the flathead's living in the rock, but once he eats the bait and he's swimming away, there's not a whole lot for him to tangle up on. So if you have your drag set right and you play him out and take your time, you have a good chance at landing that fish. It's just going to take you a little while. And I think it was a 5 or 6 minute fight, and then we had him in the net, and client was real happy and I was real happy. Actually, now that I think about it, we caught 2 40-pounders on those combos. So it's doable, and it's fun, and the channel cats are fun. If I'm specifically fishing flatheads though, like again, I like fiberglass rods. I actually am mostly using rods I built myself because you can play around with actions that way. Like I bought a 9.5 foot blank and then chopped it down to get the desired taper of the bend that I wanted. And that took a long time. Like I've spent probably $500 chopping up and destroying fishing rods to get to the point where I'm at. Probably more than that. But anyway, so I built those. They're fiberglass, slower tip. I would call them a medium heavy. If somebody if somebody wanted to buy a production rod that was comparable, the best one that I've used that I really like is the Rip and Lips Super Cats. And they make a cheaper one. They have their higher end, and then they have their cheaper one. I actually like the cheaper ones. Well, because they're cheaper, but also because they have the graphite reel seat, which is a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
But anyway, they have a medium. So it's the Rip and Lip Super Cat Legacy mediums. It's a mouthful, but they're fiberglass, tubular fiberglass. So they got that nice parabolic bend. very forgiving when you hook a big fish, which is, and they still got enough power where if you need to pull them away from something, you can.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think that forgiving tip for giving middle section is really important for landing as many fish as you can. But I have that with a PC Fun Aliois 400, which is basically a giant musky low pro bait caster.
Mm-hmm.
They got a clicker, which I like, and then spool that with 80-pound braid. And then my leader for flatheads is 60 because I'm snagging my hook a lot. And then for blue cats, I use 80-pound leader. If I snag, I snag, and I lose everything. I lose everything. I'm not going to go up to 100-pound braid. That's I'm just not going to do it. But the blue cats, the big ones, they'll hit so damn hard. I've had 2 fish. Actually, there was one day where I had 2 fish hit the rod so hard that they snapped 60-pound leader
Holy cow.
with the rod in the holder, like before I could even get to it.
Golly.
I remember that day. Well, for a lot of reasons, but the first one that did it, I'm like, oh, I backed my drags off on all the reels. I'm like, come on, God, just give me one more chance. I fixed it all. My drags are backed off. Like, we're okay. And it happened again 2.5 hours later with the same result. And I'm just like, oh, never fishing 60-pound leader for blue cats again.
Yeah. God, not. I had a day like that. I missed one, and I wish I could got him. I've never seen my pole bend like that. And when he let go, I mean, that thing almost came out of the rod holder, and I was like, my girlfriend was with me, and she was like, and I was like, well, if we run into him again, maybe he'll hook up. But yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Blue cats are special. They're
Yeah.
the way they hit is there ain't nothing in freshwater that compares. Well, striper will hit us harder than a blue cat, but that's all I can think of. Oh, the hooks. I guess if I'm fishing for flatheads, I like J hooks.
Okay.
If I'm fishing for blues, I like circles, which is a conundrum for me because I'll fish waters that have both.
Yeah.
You got to pick one. I usually go with circles because I'm gonna get more blue cat bites, and you can definitely hook a flathead on a circle still. But if I'm fishing like up here where there's no blues, I'm gonna use J's for flatheads.
Yeah, I run mainly circles around me. Do you so if you're focused for blues, you using cut bait, I'm guessing?
Yeah, pretty much 100% of the time I'm using some kind of cut bait. Like the type of cut bait's going to vary based on where I'm at and time of year, but and what I can get,
Right.
like that's a big thing. Like if I'm on the Tennessee River, most of the time I want skipjack, but I can't always get skipjack.
Yeah.
Although I'm boneheaded enough and hard-headed enough where I'll work at it. But I mean, gizzard shad's tough to beat. If I could fish with one bait for the rest of my life, like if somebody said you can only pick one for everything, I'm probably going shad.
Yeah.
It's so versatile, You can use them live for flatheads, and they're a great flathead bait alive. You can cut them up. They're a great flathead bait cut up, great blue cat bait cut up. And I mean, I guess there's times where live shad's the best bet for blues too. And then channels, like shad's tough to beat for channel cats.
Yeah, then even, hybrids and stripers, you can go after, target them with shad too.
Oh, that's probably the best way to target them. Yeah. The spring, for whatever reason, a plastic seems to work really well in the spring. But once it warms up, you can't beat a live shad.
So in your say your blue cat setup, so you're running like any demon dragons, any cork floats, kind of what do you do there?
Depends on what I'm doing. I pretty much always have a rattle of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
For blues or channels. Flatheads, I'm not convinced they give a shit. So I might use one just to try it, but I haven't noticed a pattern where it seems to make a difference. But I'm glad you asked, because like with the blues and channels, the biggest difference seems to be moving bait presentations. Like if you're dragging baits, those rattles, I don't know if it lets them know it's coming. Like they hear the commotion and then they pay attention, and then suddenly there's food tied to the end and they come to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Or when I'm walking baits bumping, having a rattle when I'm doing that really seems to make a difference. and then anchoring too, but it's not as dramatic as when you're dragging baits and
Right.
or bumping. But yeah, there's something to them rattles for the channels and blues. There really is. At least I'm a believer.
Oh, I'm a huge believer. But it's funny to see different people's setups. Sometimes you see 1, 2. I'm like a 1 or 2, maybe 3, but usually not. And then some people look like a straight up like a kindergartner bracelet. How many they have on? It's just crazy to see everyone's different setups.
Well, I kind of wonder if I kick that off. Like, I'd never notice anybody doing anything goofy. But with the Versa rattles, the rattle balls, whatever you want to call them, my concern with them was if you let that slide down to your hook, that could interfere with that hook catching in the corner of that fish's mouth. So what I started doing was putting beads between the rattle and the hook as a spacer. So the fish would grab the bait and not have that rattle interfere with any hookup,
Right.
any of the hookups. And then I started noticing other people doing things similar, or people would use like aquarium tubing for your spacer. But I don't know. It might just be in my head. I might not have done anything. That people might have been doing that anyway. But it was just something that I started noticing after I started posting pictures and videos of it.
Yeah, I like to use several beads, but I was talking about like the rattles. I've seen some people, with like 5 or 6 of them on there set up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy what people do. Yeah, and then I always run Demon Dragon, and then that one in particular, I just told you about the one that got away. I'm almost certain he just hit the Demon Dragon and just let that go and never had the hook in his mouth. Just because, like I said, that big of a bite, how hard he should have got hooked, and nothing broke. And
you never know, man.
You never know. Well, then I started spacing it, and then it's like that day I literally brought all of them up, cut them, and spaced them a little more, and which I never caught anything big, but it was like I started catching them, and I was like, please, just give me a chance at him again, because that was, like I said, I've never seen a rod. My rod's been like that, and I was definitely had my heart pumping.
Well, you're fishing in a lake that's got some absolute giants in it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, every lake around here has giants. You can say your name any lake you want, and you can pull up pictures or videos of it. That's what I like around here. Is like, yeah,
when I say giants, I'm talking about like a population of giants. Like any lake you're talking about has some big fish in it. But I'm talking about a lake where you have enough big fish where you could confidently say, I'm going to go out and target big fish today and not be just pissing in the wind, where, like any lake in the country could have one freak show in it and you luck across it. The lake you're talking about you can just go target the freak shows because there's enough of them in there.
Yeah, that's what I was like. You talk about that one that's west of me, but even Keystone.
Keystone's got a pile of 5 to 15s.
And what's weird about that's that I've noticed, and fishing that, the 2 rivers come in it. One river you can go over there and catch the 5 to 10 to 15s pretty easy. Geez, I went southern again. And you go the other side, and it's like you don't catch as much, but you're going up to like an average of 15 to 20. It's so weird. I don't know what the break is there. I'm like, what happened?
But what I'm talking about, well, a lot of it's watershed. A lot of it's, well, back to telling you how some creeks have certain characteristics that pull fish in and some don't. My guess is one of those creeks has something about it that draws them big fish up it.
Yeah.
Where the other one is missing a characteristic and the smaller fish gravitate towards it, would be my guess. But that's just a theory. And if you were to fish either of those creeks, I know which one I'm going to fish.
Right, 100%.
And then I'm going to pay attention and I'm going to look at what's different about that creek versus the other one and see if there's another creek within an hour of me that has those same characteristics, and probably go try that one too.
Yeah, and that's what I'm just learning. I just bought that boat in November of last year. So it's fun to start learning one area, and then I'm slowly going back to other areas and trying to take what I learned. But I got spoiled this year when it came to winter fishing up east of me. It was unreal. I'm a huge now. Well, see, that's what's crazy. I couldn't pull anything. I couldn't break 18. But I could go out there and I mean, it was like consecutively big fish. I know a guy that fishes that lake religiously, fishes the same areas I was in. He'll go up there, he's the same thing I do, and then just catch big ones all day. And I'm like, like what's the difference? And it's funny because I'll talk to him, he'll try to help me, and I'm like, literally, here, look, this is what I'm using. And it's like I'm a copycat of him, and it just doesn't happen. So there's something he's doing that I'm not, that I haven't figured it out yet.
That's what I was just going to say. There's got to be something, even if at like surface level, it doesn't look like there's any difference. There's something.
Yeah.
The end results are what they are, and it's never on accident.
Yeah, it's just aggravating, and that's what the fun part is. Eventually, I'll get there. I'm not even in a year of doing this, and off a boat, and it's just crazy to see the changes that I've made and just seeing the success from it. And it's I don't know. It's just I'm a huge deer hunter, but this winter there was times I was like, I'm going fishing this morning. My girlfriend's like, "Are you sick?"
That's why I don't deer hunt, man. I made the decision in high school because I was shooting a bow around quite a bit, and I thought it was okay. Like I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I freaking love fishing. And November, when the rut's going down, is some great walleye fishing, and I love walleye fishing. So I'll give up. Like I shot a deer. I've only shot one deer my whole life. A couple years ago, and it was okay. I love back straps. Like I grilled or cooked back straps on a cast iron right before our podcast. I'm just lucky that I know enough people where I can get some venison and not have to go kill my own. But I don't mind hunting them. I enjoy hunting them. But if I have to pick between them and fishing, I pick fishing every time.
Yeah. That would be a hard decision. It's funny just watching me last year making that decision of what I want to do. I couldn't give up my October, November, but when it hit December, I was like, yeah, I'm hitting the water. So it was fun though.
The problem with deer hunting is you run into a lot of BS that goes along with it. Like I grew up in giant deer country, southern Iowa, where what deer was that? The Centerville buck and there's a pile of giants that get killed here every year, and people just lose their mind, and people fight over land they don't even own, and then it pisses off landowners, and then they don't let anybody hunt after that, and it's just this giant drama fest, like As the Whitetail Turns type soap opera, and I don't want anything to do with that, so I just go fishing, man.
Yeah, that's what I learned. Especially we love to waterfowl hunt, and there's a huge deal around Oklahoma right now about that. And I was like, I could just get out in the water and get away from everyone and just relax and not be, just ate up with so and so just got that place and we've hunted for 10 years. And it's it's just a lot of people going around making enemies versus friends, and it's just not worth it.
Not to me. I mean, if you love it enough, sure. I knew early on that I didn't love deer hunting enough to want to sift my way through that crap.
Yeah. So I want to touch on when you're fishing tournaments. Was this your first year to kind of start fishing these tournaments?
It's definitely the most tournaments I've fished. I've sat in a few people's boats and who needed a partner, and just was present, and I can tie a knot and bait a hook, so I just help make it more efficient for them. But this is the first year where I went hard at it with like the intention of doing well instead of just being there. And so, yeah, basically first true year of fishing tournaments.
Yeah. Did you have any luck?
Yeah, I had 2 top 10s, 1 top 5, several in the middle and a few at the bottom. So kind of spread out over the place. And but I don't know. The biggest thing was main reason I wanted to do it was to learn, and I've learned so much. And that's why I would say anybody who's thinking about fishing tournaments, don't worry about winning, losing, whatever. Just go do it, because I'm not the greatest catfisherman in the world, but I'm way better than I was this time last year. Like I'm probably 10 times better than I was, like overall, big, especially on the big water than I was last year. And I'm glad I did it. And I'm going to keep doing it. There's one this weekend I thought about fishing. I don't think I'm gonna. It's a 7-hour drive from my house, 7.5. So that's kind of the holdup. But the next one will be in a month, the first weekend of August. That one's 2.5 hours away, and I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
Hopefully the water's a little bit lower, and it's on a pool, the Mississippi, that's got a real good flathead population. So
that's awesome.
That'll be fun.
If you bang out a couple of them, you're going to do well.
Yeah.
If you don't, like if you put together a good stringer of channel cats, you can still do well. But if you bang out a couple flatheads and then have a limit of channels to fill it out, you're going to be top 10, which that's the hope.
Yeah.
The execution is the problem sometimes, but I know what I'm going to try to do.
Yeah, I went out, or I go do a lot of coyote hunting competitions, and that's what I think made me become a better coyote hunter, was learning how to get my butt beat, time after time again, and just the competitiveness in me just going, what are they doing? What are they doing? And just keep critiquing. And I have yet to place, top 5, but there's been times that or let me phrase that, top 3. There's been times I've been sitting top 3 until the last 3 people show up. And, we're right in the money and I get beat out by ounces. But, I mean, just that drive of just wanting to learn. And this last year, I made another big move on some stuff. And I went to a tournament and was like, I think 4 ounces from winning small dog and then like within 8 ounces of another competition. And then 1 coyote out of winning 3rd place, and I was like, man, I'm so close to being able to go out and having a really good day. And that's really fun to watch. And, being willing to learn versus get sad and, hang it up.
Well, so you said it, like you said it better than me, man, like way better than me, the drive. Cause like that tournament I didn't finish dead last, but I wasn't very far off of it last summer. And that's actually this tournament that I'm going to fish in a month. So last year I would have got like 49th out of 53, I think. It was like embarrassingly bad. I, after that tournament, went home. I'm like, why am I home? So, I mean, other than like, obviously to see the people I care about, but I need to go film to make videos. Why don't I just go back there and figure out that fishery?
Yeah.
Not saying that I have it dialed in, but I understand it a lot better now than I did. So yeah, after I got my butt kicked to that tournament, I went back and spent 5 days camped out for 5 days out there. And no, I camped out 2 days, and then I have a buddy who lets me stay in his cabin over there. But anyway, spent 5 days over there trying to figure out a fishery, and then actually went and ran guide trips on it after that. Because I figured out enough things where I felt good running guide trips on it. And so I spent some time out there, and hopefully it shows in the tournament. We'll see,
Yeah.
This year, a lot higher water, things have changed, but I don't know, put in the time. And even if I don't do well, I'm still way better fisherman than I was thanks to fishing that tournament.
Right. There's 2 things a lot of people, I feel like, I see a lot of comments on your stuff is they're surprised you have a wife is one. And then the second one, I just went blank on that. Give me a second. I'll bring it back. Oh, and they're surprised that you guide, and in some of your videos, you've spoke on it. Is that something you do year round?
I basically do a lot of things part-time. Like I do the YouTube thing part-time. I do promotion stuff for, well, I guess I don't even do that anymore. I did promotion stuff for a tackle company, and I just do YouTube and then I guide. Those are my main sources of income. And what I'll do seems like every year I do it a little bit different. This year I'm doing like a week at a time. I'm guiding. So I was on the Mississippi for a week running guide trips. A few weeks ago, I was on the Mississippi for a week in May. I'm going to be on the Missouri, maybe. We'll see what these water levels do. I'm keeping an eye on them. They're dropping pretty quick, thankfully, but we'll see what the boat ramps look like. But plan on being on the Missouri for 2 weeks at the end of this month. Then on the Missouri again for a week in August. And then I'll do some trips around central Iowa, and then I go run trips in Alabama in the winter from
wow.
November to March.
And you do catfish and like hybrid trips, don't you?
I did hybrid trips when I had my old boat.
Okay.
So the hybrids, they're on where I feel good enough to take people out to target them is on some shallow rivers around here. With my new boat, I don't feel like it. I wouldn't want to put it in the places where it needs to go
Right.
to hybrids.
How's that change? You went from, was it a 2072? Was that your old boat, or what? What size was your old boat? Yeah, with a tiller, and then you're what, at a 24? Is that
No,
what?
they're the same size. They're
Oh,
both 2072s.
okay.
The big difference is one was a tiller and a jet, and this one is a prop and has a windshield.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, and then this one also has a lot more more dead rise to it. So it's just more of a big water boat.
Mhm.
What it does is from a guiding perspective, it limits me to bigger water, which is fine. There's bigger water, more opportunity, more fish. It can be difficult too, just in different ways. But the idea behind that was, if I want to fish small water, I have a kayak, so why don't I just kayak? And if I want to fish big water, I had a boat the last 2 years that would float, but it wasn't a big water boat. You could put it on big water, just didn't handle it well, not well enough where I wanted to take clients out
Right.
on a lot of it. So now, if I want to take clients, I have a big water boat that's more comfortable, with the windshield and the cockpit and all that stuff. And it's just a better guiding boat, a much better guiding boat. And if I want to fish creeks and small rivers, I just do it out of my kayak.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I run into with my boat. Yeah, I can go across big water, but it's more of a shallow water river boat than anything. Is there any regrets you have going back? Thinking about, did you actually sell your old boat, or do you don't have it anymore, right?
No, I traded it in for
Traded
the other one, and I absolutely miss it at times. But I guess it's just recognizing the good. Like, all bad can be good. So I found a lot of spots this year that I wouldn't have found had I had a jet, because I would have been spending a lot more time on different bodies of water than what I've been spending time on in my kayak. And in so facto, I've found new places and got permission to fish camp out on new places that I probably wouldn't have happened if I still had my jet. So that's kind of a turning a bad into a good. But is it really bad? Because either way, I'm fishing. So
Yeah.
would I like to have a jet? Yeah. Will I have one of these days? Probably. It'll be down the road. I don't know if I would get rid of my boat and get another jet, or if I would keep my boat and then get like a 1752 or I really like them 1660s.
Yeah.
Get a tiller with like a 9065 jet on the back. I think that would be a sweet rig. But the problem is I'm kind of a windshield guy now. I really like that windshield.
Yeah. If you had a choice, like if someone sat you down, let's say God sat you down and he said, you have to fish big water, or you have to fish that little water for the rest of your life, which would you choose?
So I got to clarify, is it only one single body of water?
No,
I can fish like all the little creeks I want.
Yeah.
Not just one.
Not just one, yeah.
Oh, I'm fishing the creeks, man. I love it.
Yeah.
The only problem with the creeks, and that's the reason I asked that, is they're like temperamental based on water level. So if the water's low, the fish aren't going to be there. So you got to go to the big water. Whereas the big water, there's always going to be some fish there. But if I can fish all the creeks, like if this one's dry, then I go to the next one that's got water. And
yeah, gotcha.
I would have to go river. I mean, which I don't know if you want to consider that creek. I mean, it's not a creek, but I'd have to stick with the river. Just something about it just drives me insane wanting to learn. And even though a lot of times on the river, I get my butt absolutely handed to me, but it's just the fact that the days that are good, we go all the way back to what we started talking about at the beginning of, it's like the days that are good, even though they're less, it's so more rewarding on the river. I don't know what it is, but Like I said, I've been getting really good at learning these lakes and target different things. But there's something about the river that I can't get over.
Well, big water's got more opportunity. There's
Yeah.
no doubt. Like you're kind of limited on a lot of the creeks, but the other side of it too is like one creek could be good for flatheads, and then you go 50 miles away and you have a different creek on a different watershed, and it's full of white bass and walleyes and all kinds of stuff that you
Yeah.
wouldn't expect.
Yeah. So if someone is listening and wanting to get started, what would be like a couple of the best hints, like they never fished before? What would be some of the best hints you'd give them?
Like for what? Just fishing in general, or
Yes, just fishing in general.
I mean, it's not even a hint. Like, just have fun. Like don't like if you're worried about catching, you want to catch some fish because you're fishing, but the goal should just be to have a good time. Like
Absolutely.
whatever that looks like out on the water. I used to get wrapped up and still do a little bit about being quiet because if you're flathead fishing in particular on a small creek and your baits are in 3 foot of water, 10 foot from you, I don't think it's a good idea to have a radio playing because I think those sounds, they don't spook every fish, but they definitely spook some fish, and I want to catch them all. I don't want to just catch the ones that are tuned up. I want to catch the ones that are tuned up, and then I want to catch the tentative one who sneaks in when everything's quiet. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy listening to a ball game or AC/DC or whatever on the riverbank and you want to play music loud as can be, and that's your idea of a good time, like go have a good time. You'll still catch some fish, maybe not as many as you would have, but who cares? You're having fun. So just have fun. I'll do my sponsor shout out.
Yeah. No,
my sponsors are awesome. I don't have a pile of them. Waterlane sunglasses, bang for your buck, good sunglasses. They're not Costas, but they don't cost as much. And then PC Fun, similar deal. Like you don't pay Shimano Stella prices, and you still get like absolutely awesome reels that get the job done. And the biggest fish, I'm trying to think, four blue cats over 80 pounds have came on PC Fun Alios 400s this year, still kicking butt.
yeah.
And then Striker brand apparel, like they make good winter stuff, they make good summer stuff, they make good rain gear. That stuff you got to pay for, but you get what you pay for on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if someone wanted to go on a guide trip with you, where can they look that up?
My website, rivercertified.com. That's got a bunch of articles on it too. Like if you want to dive deeper into, it doesn't cover everything, but it goes more in depth into, different subject areas, walleyes, hybrids, and obviously a lot of catfishing stuff in there.
Right. Yeah. So I'll definitely drop that down in the description below if you guys want to check it out. And but thank you, Spencer, for coming on today and giving us your time. It's been an enjoyment to talk to you.
Oh yeah, I've had a good time too. Appreciate the invitation.